So if printmaking is making a work of art by carving a stamp that you can then stamp over and over and over again to get a reproducible work of art, what are some different kinds of prints? Well, that's what we're going to look at next. The first and simplest method of printmaking is a woodblock. And that's what you see in front of you. A woodblock is basically the stamp is made of a block of wood. Whoever the artist is, in this case, the artist was carving some kind of moth. So the artist made the drawing of the moth, carved that drawing into this block of wood, put ink on the wood, and then stamped it onto a piece of paper. You know, that artist can make many, many, many different copies of that moth. He can reuse that stamp over and over and over again. Wood blocks are great. They are really durable. Wood is really durable. Some negative things about woodblock are, well, carving wood into those intricate fine details is a pain in the butt. It is not easy to do. People don't really like doing it. Many artists will hire out the actual carving. They will draw the thing and then send it to a carver to carve. And also, I want you to imagine getting those fine details in a carving those fine details. It makes woodblock kind of tough, and it's a reason that people start using other things besides woodblock as they invent other materials. So here is a very famous example of a woodblock. And it's called The Great Wave Offshore at Kanagawa by the artist Hukosai in 1826 to 33. And Hukosai made this drawing of the big wave about to, I don't know, do something pretty bad to the people in those boats. They better be prepared. He or another artist carved it into the wood block, and then it was stamped over and over and over again. Now, one thing to notice about this block is count how many colors there are. Let's see, we've got white, blue, dark blue, tan, here's some more tan, dark brown, some, it looks like black lines. There's about six, oh, there's some yellow. There's about 6 colors. So the question is, how does one do a color in printing? How do you do that? Do you paint on it afterwards, after you print it? The answer is actually no. The way you do color in printing is you have a different color for each stamp. That sounds like a big deal. It is kind of a pain. So you're going to have one stamp with all the white, then you're going to stamp it with all the blue, then you're going to stamp it with all the dark blue, then you're going to stamp it again with the brown. Each color has a different carved stamp for just that color. So it's still, you can still repeat your image over and over and over and over again, but it slows the process down because then instead of just stamping it once, you have to stamp it with one color and then line it up perfectly to stamp it again with another color so that the lines aren't messed up. That's one reason in printmaking why we don't have a lot of colors. You usually only have 6 colors, 7 colors, 8 colors, because the more colors you add, the more it slows down that process. And with printmaking, you want the process to be quick. You want to be able to make multiple copies quickly. So Hukosai made that picture. If you looked in the back of it, you would have seen that while the main thing in there is the wave and the people, in the far background is a mountain, Mount Fuji. Hukosai actually made Mount Fuji a series of prints of Mount Fuji in lots and lots of different seasons, or probably not lots, probably 10 different seasons. And it was a series about Mount Fuji. Here are some other prints from the series about Mount Fuji. Maybe you like these better. The Great Wave is the famous one. There are many more. I happen to like this one of the cherry blossoms. I think that's really nice. But in each one, you can see that there's multiple colors used. In each one of these prints, a different block was made for each color, and then the artist had to make sure to line all of the colors up so it didn't look off. That process is called registration. Each color has a different block. If your block has good registration, all of the colors of a print line up. If your print has bad registration, that means there's a kind of separation between one color or the next. Oh, I forgot that was there. I did a Google search for the Great Wave of Kanagawa, and I found these. I found these, which are totally ridiculous. Which one is your favorite, Cookie Monster or Great Wave of Kanagawa / Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night? Another type of print um, is called a linoleum cut. A linoleum cut is a lot like a wood block. The difference is that instead of carving out of wood, which is really hard to carve and hard to get details out of, linoleum is a soft material. Imagine it like a pencil eraser. It's a very soft material, and it's very easy to get great details in linoleum that you can't get when you're carving in wood. I've got two works in front of you that are linoleum cuts. The first one is the piece Sharecropper by the artist Elizabeth Catlett. That's the one over here on the right. And when you look at these linoleum cuts, you can tell that because of the material, linoleum, which is much softer than wood, like a pencil eraser, you can get lots of different textures and patterns that you wouldn't be able to get if you were using wood. So here's one example of a texture. Here's another example of a texture and pattern. And Elizabeth Catlett was able to do all of these different patterns because the material she was using was much softer and it was easier to get fine details. So let's take a look over at this work, Sharecropper. So Elizabeth started this out as a drawing and then made it into a linoleum cut. So she took her drawing, traced it onto a piece of linoleum, and then carved it out. Now, color and printing. How many colors do you see? Well, there's white, there's black, there's green, and there's brown. Are there a variety of shades of green to suggest light and dark areas? Are there a variety of shades of brown to suggest light and dark areas, places where the woman's face is hitting the sun or being shaded from the light? There aren't. It's just one color of brown. So think about, how does Elizabeth Catlett show light and dark areas in the woman's face and in the woman's jacket? Can you see it? It's lines. It's lines, just like you guys said in drawing. It's lines that suggest the light and dark areas. Where it is supposed to be lighter, where the light is reflecting off, like in this part of the woman's face, there are very few lines, and the lines are black. So it appears to be lighter, and it's really just less dense lines. The parts where it appears to be darker, appears to be shaded, there are more dense lines. So again, Elizabeth Catlett is not using different colors of green and brown. She is using the density of the lines to suggest light and dark areas. That's all you can do in printmaking. You don't have a lot of colors to work with. You don't have a lot of visual elements to work with. Basically, you've got white, black, lines, and then a handful of colors, and you've really got to manipulate those few things in order to get your message across. So you just don't have a lot to work with. So one thing to know about making a print, or one thing to think about making a print, is that you're actually carving something and then putting ink on it. So think for a second. This is my friend Ted's Instagram, and he's a printmaker, and these are the linoleum blocks that he carved, and he took this one and printed that. Now take a look at the print. The parts that he carved, are they white in the print, or are they black? And you see, I'm sure, that the carved parts are white and the uncarved parts, the raised parts, are black, which means that printmaking is done in reverse. The lines that you make when you're doing the drawing become white in the final artwork, which is on a piece of paper, the parts that you don't draw, the lines that you do not draw, the uncarved areas become black. This is really well shown in the video of my friend Bill Fick. He's going to be making a linoleum cut of like a skeleton with a snake coming out of its mouth, or no, it's a skeleton and then the snake is above. Watch that video and you'll really get a good sense for how printmaking works. But one thing to know about printmaking is everything is in reverse. So printmaking is done in reverse. The carved parts become white and the uncarved raised areas become black. And you can see that really well in Ted's print.